Today is Tuesday, March the 26th, 2013. Hello, friends. I'm Matthew T.G.
I'm Beef Mulligan.
And friends, I'm Tony Casey. Welcome to the Technology Show, weekly podcast featuring technology, theology, and everything in between. This is episode 196.
The March Madness edition of the Technology Show.
Yeah, go ahead.
None of our teams
trash me.
None of our teams are in the tournament anymore. Wisconsin lost, North Carolina lost, and Clemson didn't make it.
Do they have a basketball program at Clemson?
We have guys transferring out of our basketball program.
Now you notice when you got here today, I was dressed in my Wisconsin regalia.
That's everything you own. You have two types of clothes. You have your Technology Show shirt and Wisconsin stuff.
Green Bay.
3. Yeah, Green Bay.
Yeah.
L4.
What?
Looney Tunes.
Yes. Very good. Yeah, my wardrobe's pretty simple.
Very childish. Very childlike.
Childish.
How about Florida Gulf Coast?
Yeah, boy, so someone's gonna beat them though. So I don't get inspired by these stories. I don't at all because they're just bait for someone else. Like Florida will probably chew them up. Isn't that who's next for them?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, it's nice for one weekend, right?
But it's a good little story.
Okay. If you say so.
That lasts for a weekend.
Exactly.
Well, today we've got a special guest with us. He is Ron Hudson. He's the associate pastor of Calvary Baptist Church in Uniontown, Pennsylvania, where he served for the last 12 years. He grew up as a missionary kid living in Japan. His goal in life is to help others realize the dream of their creator. He seeks to connect people to God through humor, compelling stories, too much coffee, and highly cultivated ADD, a man after my own heart. He's married with 2 children, and he is the creator of the Podium Q app, and that's why we've got him on today. Ron, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Heath. It's a pleasure to be here.
Ron, tell us just a little bit about your journey in ministry and growing up in Japan, and what made you want to create Podium Q?
Sure. It's a long story, so I'll try not to make it too long. But I grew up in Japan. My dad was a missionary there, and so I spent about 7 years from the age of 12 to 19 living in Japan. And as any preacher's kid or missionary kid out there who's listening would know, you kind of do ministry whether you really want to or not. It's just kind of we got no one else to do it, Ron. So can you fill in for us in this Sunday school? Or our worship leader went to sea for 6 months on the ship here. So can you lead worship? So from the age of 17, I was doing a lot of those roles.
Yeah, now our producer here, he's a pastor's kid. So the
That's
whole
right.
time you're saying this,
Matthew, can you mow the church lawn, go pull the weeds out of the parking lot? Yes, I've been there.
It's so it's fun. You learn the ropes at a young age. Start your training early. So I came back to the States. I was really torn. I didn't know if I wanted to go to college for computer science or go to seminary. I really want to serve God with my life, but I also am a raging nerd.
So tell us again here. You talked about you were a little torn when you got back to the States. Didn't know if you wanted to go to seminary. You wanted to go to seminary. Also wanted to do computer science. You say you're a raging nerd. So kind of pick us up from there.
Yeah. So I came back to the States and had this incredible opportunity at the church here to kind of be an apprentice and get to work with the local church staff here, the pastor, be discipled by him one-on-one, and get to teach and do things that I'd already been doing as a missionary kid, but in a deeper, more responsible role, and also continue my theological studies here in the church. And then at the same time, I went to Cal U for mathematics and computer science, which is a local college here.
Okay. So we got you on the show to talk about your app, Podium Q. So why don't you walk us through the process of developing the app? Kind of just pull back this curtain here for those of us that aren't developers and don't understand how these apps work and atmosphere. Talk to us a little bit about this.
Okay. First off, it's really complex. I had no idea what I was getting myself into.
Oh, wow.
No clue at all. It's kind of a Cinderella story, so to speak, Cinderfella. I met this guy Sean on Twitter, and he's a Navy SEAL, which is incredible. He's a cool guy. So, but he's working with another pastor to develop this public speaking app for iPad. And I was so disappointed when I got my iPad that there was nothing amazing to use in the pulpit when speaking, teaching that would help me organize my thoughts. So I saw this app was being created, Podium Pro. And so I started tweeting him and saying, hey, you got to let me beta test this thing. I want to help you out. I want to do whatever I can. So I became a beta tester for Podium Pro. And through the process, we kind of got to a point where Podium Pro wasn't for my speaking style and more of just a bullet point, kind of give me a little cue, and then I'll talk from that. So Podium Pro was more like kind of a manuscript or a full-on outline, like the rich text format, big Word document, and that sort of thing. And so I did a mock-up one night in Photoshop and said, this is kind of what I'm looking for, and that was Podium Q, this idea of having cue cards that you can jump around in and have almost like a two-dimensional way to jump ahead in your notes and never get lost. And so he said, let's Skype. Next thing you know, we're developing a brand new app. So it kind of started that way.
So what's that like I guess the technical side of it, of actually submitting that to Apple, but I mean,
okay, let me walk you through a couple pieces. First off, you have your design, your interface design, and your graphics, which are a huge part of it. You know, when you think of an app and you get it in your mind, and you're like, I just want this simple app that does this one thing.
Yeah.
And I always tell people that's going to cost you about 10 grand to get a developer and start looking at it. They said, no, I want it to be really simple. And I said, well, that'll probably be around 25 grand. Because the more you get into it, the more features you think of, well, I need a button for this. Well, how can you do that without making a new button? How can you make it to where the user just knows what to do without having to have this huge manual and getting complex? And you start to dig into that stuff, and then the developer comes back to you and says, well, this doesn't work, and so how do we shift and change here? And there's a lot of just hard mind melting thought process that goes into it before you even write a lick of code.
So how long did it take you to develop this?
We took it was pretty accelerated. We took about 5 to 6 months. I think it was 6 months to get it launched in the App Store. So and this is just version 1 basic. We cut and threw out all of my children that I loved, all the features that I wanted. Really, we just getting minimally viable product just to a base point of this is the very basic. If you distill it down to its bottom line, it has to have this functionality.
Yeah.
And you start from there, and then you start to build up from there.
Most of our listeners, Ron, are people in ministry. They're pastors. So how can Podium Q help them in their sermon preparation and delivery?
Okay, that's a great question. Podium Q is really comes from my inability to follow a structured outline. Call it ADD, call it the Holy Spirit. I don't know, whatever you wanna put in there. But when I have a full outline, I start talking and I get away from my notes and I walk away because I want to connect with the audience. I really am passionate about connecting people to the Word of God and helping them understand how that applies to their life. And so I walk away from my notes, and then I tell these compelling stories, and then I come back and I look down at the sea of text.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, and then you lose that moment. You lose the connection, and there's this like, okay, now he's reading off a page. So I wanted to figure out a way to help me stay on topic without running off on rabbit trails. I'm sure you guys have never done that sort of thing.
No.
But I want to stay on topic, but still, keep moving forward. So the big idea with Podium Q was to put, just 1 or 2 little points on the screen that I can talk from, talking points, and then have a cue at the bottom of what's coming next.
Yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Just a seamless transition. You have just the title of the next card is on the bottom of the card you're looking at. And so you can start talking about the next point even as you're swiping to get to that next card. And so many times I would even tell a whole story and not look at the notes. I would write, a whole paragraph of notes, and then I would tell the whole story just off of memory because I'm not going to sit there and read it. But I didn't, plan for that. So then when I come back, Podium Q allows you to jump to the main point. You could just swipe up and jump to that red card, which is your main point, and continue on. You can reiterate your main point and then just continue on in your message without missing a beat, and nobody knows that you got lost in your notes.
Yeah, one of the things that we'll do is in our show notes, we will link people to your demonstration of this app. You have a couple of videos.
Yep.
And one of the things that jumped out to me, I kind of had the idea that for some people, it's almost a niche app to me, because people whose personalities are similar to yours, and I would say I'm one of those, where what I identified with was getting lost in the sea of text. Yeah. And so you think, okay, I'm going to print this manuscript out, and I'm going to have everything I need to say right here in front of me. And this is going to be wonderful. And then, like you say, you tell this story and you really get into it. And then you get done with the story, you come back to your text, and you say, my word, where am I?
Yeah.
Well, right.
Where am I supposed to be here? So to me, when I saw your demonstrations, I got it. And again, we'll connect our listeners to that, and we'll put that in the show notes. I'm curious, what's been the response so far to this app?
So far, we've gotten all 5-star reviews. People seem to like it. I think if you are a speaker like that likes to just get a cue, and that's all I really need. I just need something to prompt me to remember that thing that I've been preaching to myself and living all week long, or for 3 weeks. It's in my heart. I don't want to forget to make that point or tell that story. If you're that kind of speaker, then I think this is going to be really powerful for you to help you stay on topic and be able to communicate effectively.
Have you gotten any feedback specifically from churches, pastors that have used it, anything like that?
Yeah, I think I've heard from several pastors that say, man, this is great, I like it. And then a couple other guys that say, I don't know if I want to type my notes in that, or if I don't want to use it. And then that's okay. I'm focused on.
Again, I think it's a personality thing there too that flows in with that, certainly.
That was my first response. When I saw your video, I thought, okay, because I identified especially with the sea of text. We get lost.
Right.
There are some people that just get lost in the sea of text. I know people that can preach from a manuscript. They do a wonderful job.
Absolutely, absolutely.
But that's not me.
It'll never be me.
One of the things, and I may be weird, my favorite thing about this app is the timer. In that, if matter of fact, I think it was the week after the app came out, I had a pretty big speaking engagement where I was speaking in university chapels and had a very defined time I was allowed to speak. And so for people who don't know the app, what it does is when you're in the play mode and you're going through your things, it's green at the top. You have this green timeline at the top. You set the amount of time that you're to speak for, and when you have like 4 minutes left, or you can set this, you'll get a yellow light. It turns yellow, and then when you're almost out of time, it turns red. And for me, that has just been this amazing cue while I'm speaking of, okay, time, you need to be landing play. But in my preparation, man, it is, I mean, my people at my church are getting to eat lunch before 1:30 now. They love it.
That's their favorite feature, right?
That's right.
Ron's a hero where Heath pastors. His posters on the back wall.
This man changed everything. What you talked to that, you said that you left a lot of features out. What does the future Podium Q look like? What are some of the changes that you'd like to see happen with it?
There's a couple of, the one I'm working on now is I'm coding an iPhone interface so that you can use Podium Q on iPhone. It'll be universal. So I'm hoping that's done in a few months, but it always takes longer than it does. So, but after we get iPhone, the next big feature is going to be AirPlay support, which you'll be able to attach a picture and a video to each card.
Right.
And as you swipe, your iPad will be connected to an Apple TV, one of these little guys.
Oh wow!
And, so all of your multimedia will be seamless, and so your notes will control your media rather than like on PowerPoint or Keynote, your media controlling your notes.
Oh wow! Cool. Now, we have a lot of nonconformists in our chat room who are asking if there's plans for an Android version of Podium Q.
Well, I actually was an Android nut. I'm a Linux guy. I love that stuff.
Hey, Ubuntu.
Absolutely. I got an Ubuntu server under my desk. I love that. I came from Android to iOS. And I like how iOS just works. When I want to play, I definitely want to play with Linux and Android, but kind of when I want to just get it done, a lot of the times, and please don't stab me, please don't kill me.
Give us Barabbas.
But no, I would love to see an Android version. I would absolutely love to see an Android version. We'd have to figure out AirPlay because AirPlay is a proprietary kind of thing. But if we got enough, if it became a viable enough product that justified it, then we would do Android support. I don't see why not.
I know there are people who would fight vehemently with me on this, but that AirPlay is there's just nothing like it on Android because it's integrated through the whole system. It's not just an application specific thing. Yeah, everything on iOS device is integrated with AirPlay, and I use it every Sunday morning. In presentation, I actually present from the front and AirPlay my slides up to our television screens, and it's huge. I mean, it makes such a difference. And
it has worked flawlessly since you transitioned to that about 5 to 8 weeks ago.
Yeah, it's really been just rock solid, and you can push the fact that you can push a 1080p signal off my laptop to an Apple TV and display that way, and I mean, you're not getting a lot of artifacting at all. I mean, I don't think anybody notices that there's a difference. It's amazing.
It is. It's incredible, and it just works.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm hoping, that you'll be able to just. And I see that. I see guys. What tends to happen when people use Keynote, and I did the same thing, is you end up putting your points on the slide, and so then your audience is seeing the points. And if you study slideology, Seth Godin, Nancy Duarte, all these folks, Gar Reynolds, they're like, don't do that. So I'm. The next stage of Podium Q is really going to help people say, well, I just want to put a picture up there. I have my notes. I mean, they're really big. They're on the screen for me to see. That's what I see. But what do I want them to see? So I think that's going to be. And then if you get lost in your notes and you skip ahead, it doesn't matter. You don't have to worry about the slide guy pulling his hair out going, where are we at? What did you do?
Yeah. And that's again, that speaks to the whole deal with AirPlay for my use. That's the help it's been. My guys in the back who run the worship stuff are able to follow that because we practice. They always know what they're going to be. But if I have to skip ahead because of time, there's times I skip ahead 3 or 4 points just to get things wrapped up. That's just mass confusion and chaos.
Wait, skip ahead 3. Matthew,
listen,
you are
have no idea.
To
no,
3 points. No. They must rhyme.
No, sir.
I've skipped all kind of points, looking down at the sea of text, and like main point, the intro, the end, the sum. I've skipped them all, Yeah. So,
well, as I said, we'll make sure we have in the show notes. We're going to link our viewers to your instructional videos and your explanation about Podium Q. Before we let you go, where can our listeners find you on the internet?
You can check me out at pastorhudson.com or Pastor Hudson on Twitter. Those are probably the easiest way to find me.
All right. Well, Ron, thank you so much for being with us today.
It's been awesome, and I love you guys' show, and keep riding the buffalo there, Heath.
Thank you very much. We'll do it.
It's a thing now.
It is.
Thanks, Ron. Blessings on you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, man.
All right, God bless.
No, we really got to get Heath on a buffalo here.
Yeah. The viewers demand it, man. The viewers are calling for it, and we give them what they want. Let's be honest about it.
Episode 200 is coming up.
Let's be honest.
All right, so let's move on to
Download of the Week.
All right, Heath.
Anybody want to guess what it
let's
is?
Guess what our download of the week is.
Yeah, that's right. Our download of the week is Podium Q. You can find it in the Apple Store. It is a paid app. It's $2.99. Well worth it. However, for our listeners at the end of the show, we're going to be giving away. We'll give away 3 copies of Podium Q.
Wow!
I'll reach deep.
You are.
I'll reach deep.
You are.
So
I'll feed you lunch today to help out.
all those So all that information will be up at our giveaway page. Like Ron was just saying, Podium Q is just an app where you can just put your thoughts on. It basically, cue cards is the whole gist of it. And I'll tell you, I have looked at. Before I bought Podium Q, looked at a lot of different public speaking apps, and for me personally, just found this one to be the best one for the way it flowed, especially for preaching on Sundays. A lot of great features to it. Right now, it is just an Apple product, but it is great for public speaking if you're trying to keep your notes short and concise and just give yourself bullet points, keywords.
Yeah.
I think you said
If,
something. Yeah.
if you're listening to us and you are not a manuscript person, you've tried that and it doesn't work for you, and you are just putting bullets, take a look at this application. If you have an iPad, I mean, take a look at this, because this is who it's designed for.
Right. And it's a lot. Like your points are color coordinated. It's just a lot, really cool. He's got some great at podiumq.com. Some great instructional videos that we're going to be linking to. Yeah. But again, Ron, great guy. I've been following him on Twitter since I found out about the app, and highly, highly recommend this app. I'm not just recommending; I use it. Yes,
he does, and I've seen evidence of that. Not on Sundays, but in the studio.
Yes.
Yeah. All right, so let's move on to They Said It.
Read my lips.
I'm going to say this again.
I've never taken steroids or HGH.
I took the initiative in creating the internet.
The Macintosh, of all the machines I've ever seen, is the only one that meets that standard.
Well, I'm not a crook.
If you know what you're doing here, slide out.
What is clear is that the mass exodus of Christians in the Middle East, including Iraq, has been caused by radical Islam, whether by Islamic governments, terrorist organizations, or extreme Islamists. We examined the issue in Iraq in a 2011 report from our European affiliate. At that time, we determined that al-Qaeda had been strategically targeting Iraqi Christians, even issuing a warning to all Christians to leave the country. Tiffany Barron's International Legal Director of the American Center for Law and Justice. Source, Fox News.
Within about 2 hours, I had pretty decent outline of what was going on that night. I was sickened. It was amazing the stuff that was out there, and that so many people who saw what was going on recorded it in real time, and yet not one person stopped it. Crime blogger Alexandria Goddard, who is being credited and blamed with uncovering the details of the Steubenville, Ohio rape case where 2 high school football players were convicted and sentenced to at least a year in juvenile detention. Source, The New York Times.
The technique will allow us to create more accurate human tissue models, which are essential to in vitro drug development and toxicity testing. In the longer term, we envision the technology being further developed to create viable 3D organs for medical implantation from a patient's own cells, eliminating the need for organ donation, immune suppression, and the problem of transplant rejection. Dr. Shu of Heriot-Watt University in Edinburgh talking about the possibilities of using stem cells and 3D printing to create human body parts. Source, Salon.
Let me bring you to a particular issue that is, of course, one of the hot issues of the day, which is a question from someone in the audience. The public position of support among prominent conservatives for same-sex marriage equality, has moved rapidly in the past year. Can you say where you are on this issue?
Yes, I am for marriage. I am for fidelity. I am for love, whether it's a man and a woman, a woman, a man and a man.
Okay.
And I think the ship has sailed, and I think that the church needs to just, this is the world that we are living in, and we need to affirm people wherever they are.
All right, so that last one there was for some of you that are in the know, probably everyone that's listening right now, that was Rob Bell. His recent comments, he's really sent shockwaves throughout the evangelical movement with this particular, if you will, affirmation of same-sex relationships or same-sex marriage, let me put it that way.
But I don't think anybody was surprised by that. I think, especially last year with Love Wins, he kind of dodged the issue, kind of gave non-answers.
Well, even in the pre-show, we were talking today. His language is a little peculiar. It's classic Rob Bell. Hard to nail him down on anything.
Are we talking about this in the eyes of the government? Are we talking about this in the eyes of the church? Are we talking about this in the eyes of Scripture? What exactly? When you get to the ship has sailed, what exactly are we? How are we nailing this egg to the wall?
Yeah, because in the culture, this ship has sailed.
And I would agree with that.
The Supreme Court is taking this up today, and if you're going to ask me to hedge my bets, it's going to be an affirmation of same-sex marriages. Now, when he talks about fidelity, I mean, even his language is curious to me. So let's take gay males and if you're going to take the issue of monogamy, about 1% of the gay male population is monogamous. So what you're saying in essence is, by definition, it's infidelity by definition. And again, I'm not this isn't me. It's just saying these are the statistics.
Right. And I read a lot of great articles yesterday. There was a CNN article on the Supreme Court decision. And it is very scary for me to hear a leader on anything to say the ship has sailed on this. That is just very scary to me, that culture is determining, we're allowing culture and context determine what we're going to discuss, how we're going to stand on issues. That is very frightening to me.
If you hear the broader context of his conversation, he says that this whole thing of same-sex and where we're going in the culture, he actually attributes it to God, saying God is orchestrating this to help us to focus on real issues, but he doesn't say what those real issues are. He doesn't explain how God's orchestrating it. He doesn't wrap Scripture into this at all. I think for me, I continue to think about this. Clearly in the culture right now, marriage is being viewed as a social contract. And in one sense it is, as the culture addresses it. For those of us in the church, and we hold to the fidelity of Scripture, we say it's more than a social contract. It is woven into creation itself. It is something that God mandates. It's an institution that He ordained. And so here's my worry. Here's my concern, that distinction can at least remain within the church. That the church isn't put at a position where it's not acknowledged that we are marching to the beat of a different drum. And so that you don't say, Tony, you have to. You cannot turn down a gay marriage.
I think whatever you feel about separation of church and state, in the issue of marriage, that line has always been blurred. We had a Facebook chat yesterday in that I have been acknowledged, ordained by the Wesleyan Church to perform marriages in the context of God, okay? It just so happens that the states that every state has different rules about how you have to apply to marry people and stuff. But I didn't ask to be a representative of the state of South Carolina and sign the marriage license. I'm more concerned with how people stand before God. So this is just because let's say the Supreme Court says, yes, we affirm same-sex marriage, and therefore, Heath, you're a pastor, you're representative of the state. State affirms same-sex marriage.
No, this is the nervousness. Exactly.
And so to say, well, your denomination, if you're not going to affirm this, we're going to have to, there's going to be some laws change. What is mind-boggling to me, okay, and I don't know all the details. I don't know the roots of it. But in Paris today, huge protest against same-sex marriage, but yet there are so many of the liberal persuasion in America who want us to be more like France. except on this issue.
Yeah.
Where they would say these French people are
well.
barbaric and,
There's a great article. I don't want to steal anyone's thunder, so won't tell you what it's about. But David Drury has a really good argument. And this is more about Rob Bell himself.
Yeah.
And I thought very insightful.
Go read his article. It's not. He doesn't tackle this issue. I enjoyed. Can I? Come on. Let me give him a little tease.
No.
Please
yes, go ahead.
On David's article. So he's not really weighing in on that. He's weighing in on a deeper thing, on a deeper level, and then making us ask a question of ourselves,
right?
As leaders, which is a very good question to ask, and I appreciate and think that his is great. DavidDury.com is one of the most recent posts. I don't know exactly the title of it, but go look.
Just scroll down.
Go
there,
look there. Yeah,
it.
worth.
Great
and
article.
a friend of ours,
but
yeah, very good.
Yeah, and I've retweeted that thing, put it on Facebook, Google Plus.
So
hey, read it. Worth your time.
Is it okay? Whatever you believe about Rob Bell, and David says this in his post, his publicist is awesome. Because here's a guy makes this statement on the eve, within weeks of the Supreme Court ruling on this. I mean, he says the right or wrong thing, depending. He's always there in the middle of things, which is quite interesting.
So, pre-show, you made a comment, Tony, that I'm curious, and you don't have to address it, but I'll bring it up, about how you're kind of. There was a time, and I think for me as well, where you slightly defended Rob Bell, where he was kind of a guy who said, there's a because
especially
he,
with Love Wins. I came to the rise of his defense.
Yeah.
On that book,
and now your heart, you're like it's just becoming harder and harder to the point where you're saying, okay, probably not backing this horse any longer.
Well, here's the thing, and I will, if anyone would go back and watch that episode, Steve Stanley and I got into quite a tussle on it. But at the end of the day, especially with his most recent comment, I think that Steve is basically right, and I was wrong on that. And that is that, Steve, you talks about how Rob Bell says a lot, but he doesn't say anything.
Yeah.
That. Getting back to David Drury's thing, when David talked about his, the people doing the press on the book,
right?
How just before the release of a book, there's a controversy which spikes, and obviously it's like, oh, I got to read that.
Yeah.
Oh, I want to. And what made me hurt with Love Wins is one of the things he says that people are living hell on earth,
right.
But he doesn't talk about Orthodox view of hell. Well, the reason that I liked that part of his book is because I felt like I had lived part of that.
Yeah.
That there is a darkness to sin.
Yeah.
That is very oppressive, and it is a precursor to hell, in my view.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I really disappointed here, and now I'm at the point where whatever.
So is Rob Bell the P.T. Barnum of the church? In just that it's like there's here. Let me show you this weird, bizarre thing, and it grabs everybody's attention, and you're oh my what is happening here? And gets every. And is that the kind of person on a spiritual level you want speaking into your life and the people in your church into their lives? Because I mean they're hearing this. It sort of seems like in this way, like personality wise, whatever, you're becoming the snake oil salesman.
When he says something definite, it's not definite.
No.
So like when I heard that statement, like, what do you mean by fidelity? What does that mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
If you had said monogamous, okay, I can put that in category. I know what you mean by that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you mean by fidelity?
Yeah.
Fidelity for the moment? I don't know what that means.
And there's if you go there, this whole session is recorded. This doesn't happen until about 42 minutes into the interview he has. The place where he's speaking is a affirming church.
Yeah, it is.
Right. And there's not really a whole lot of follow-up after this either. It's just kind of like that's dropped and then not pursued anymore.
She affirms him for his affirmation.
Yeah,
and moves on to the interview.
And the crowd claps, and all that. But we really don't get very interesting.
Now all right. So here's my question. Yeah. All right. So should we tell Tiffany Barron's? Tiffany, in Muslim countries they prosecute Christians. The ship sailed on that. Really nothing you can do about it. you just need to go with the times. That's how they do it. I mean, that's just.
But
you
I
just
think,
need to accept.
But
that
I think Matthew's point on that is like we don't know what he means by the ship has sailed on that. So if you mean that from a cultural point of view,
I agree with that, and I honestly. So let me say something that might. I might regret saying later on.
Oh,
good.
Dear.
All right.
And this is being
here we go.
recorded.
Yes,
Good.
this is being
Good.
recorded, and
Good.
I understand that.
And you are in charge of the
I know
DVD.
not the man.
I don't know. I don't know how hard, from a political point of view, I'm able to champion marriage, man, woman, and that's it. From a United States political point of view.
Let me put it this way: from a United States democracy point of view, because
constitutional point of view, all these kind of. But go ahead.
Well, because I'm just backing your point.
Okay.
Because in California, we were upset because while Proposition 8 passed, the courts struck it down. Well, in California, democracy said we don't want this as a definition of marriage.
Yeah.
Well, now it seems like democracy is saying across the country we do want it, and so if we're arguing on the grounds of the majority rule.
We're in bad shape.
We're in trouble because over here we want to say, hey, acknowledge the majority, and now we're saying don't acknowledge the majority. You see what I'm saying here? And so
the ship has sailed.
From a moral point of view, from a biblical point of view, I'm rock solid.
Yes,
I'm rock solid.
Right. That's exactly it. But I just don't know.
But is that what is he saying?
We don't know.
That's
the point.
That's the whole issue.
Because there are people saying now I mean, they just had CPAC last week, and a lot of the things were, hey, on abortion and gay marriage, Republicans, that ship has sailed. That's not going to win you elections. Of course, Ralph Reed has a great counterpoint article to that. All right. Anyway,
see now, but so on an abortion issue, I can fight politically on that because you're talking about life, and when your definition of life.
Can I read? I want to read a couple quotes here. This is out of Rosaria Butterfield's book, and this is the woman that was self-described leftist, feminist in a lesbian relationship, and she left all of that. She's going to be a guest on our show in May. So let me read a couple quotes out of her book, and this is when she's wrestling with the way that her lifestyle and her same-sex relationship. And she talks about Pastor Ken, who was very redemptive in her life. During one sermon, Ken pointed to John 7:17 and called this, quote, the hermeneutics of obedience. Jesus is speaking in this passage, and he says, if anyone is willing to do God's will, he will know of the teaching, whether it is of God or whether I speak from myself, end quote. Aha, here it was. Obedience comes before understanding. I wanted to understand, but did I actually will to do his will? God promised to reveal this understanding to me if I, quote, willed to do his will. The Bible doesn't just say do his will, but, quote, will to do his will. Wanting to understand is a theoretical statement. Willing to do his will takes action. I learned that we must obey in faith before we feel better or different. At this time, though, obeying in faith to me felt like throwing myself off a cliff. Faith that endures is heroic, not sentimental.
I love it, and it ties in with something from Soul Shift and a great statement that Steve Deneff makes about what if belonging to the church isn't about agreeing. What if it's about submitting?
Yeah.
And then how does the Lord use that? How can the Lord use that to change us? And submitting is something that we are getting less and less capable of because we live in the culture of every man for himself. That's right. And I have what right, and so I don't have to submit to anybody. Ooh, that's working its way. That's working its way out of the way we think and out of the way we act, isn't it?
Oh, you're preaching to the choir, man. And yes, last night on Channel 4, our local NBC affiliate here, as they were talking about this issue of gay marriage, one of the things that for those that were for gay marriage said that we've got to get these immoral laws off the book. And so this whole thing of morality, what is morality? And within our culture, that whole conversation is just changing.
Right, and if everybody's defining it for themselves, There's nothing moral. So it all, like, if we're going to have that means there's a submission to some standard of morality.
And I think for me, like this whole issue
for you. So
for me,
not
I don't want to speak for everybody, but you're talking about two issues. There's the legal aspect of it,
right,
and then there's the moral aspect of it. The moral aspect of it, I know whom I have believed. I know where I stand with that. The legal aspect, that is something I wrestle with. I mean, should
no, your hesitancy is Matthew's hesitancy, which is my hesitancy.
And it'll break my heart. I mean, it would break my heart if legally this was to happen. I'm going to be saddened by that and discouraged by that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I was trying to follow that up with more of a statement.
I would. Yeah.
So you tried to segue a little bit ago, and it was awesome, but it just didn't
but I
work.
drug it right
That's
back.
right.
I'm sorry.
Get that segue
Is
out of
there
here.
a comment or question in the chat room or something?
No, they're all. That's good discussion in there.
Okay.
I wanted to talk about the Steubenville case. There's a link in the show note. Great article about literally this blogger broke the case. Like, without this blogger doing her homework, which she said in the quote only took her a few hours, they didn't really have to call any witnesses because these kids, we talked about it last week too.
Well, I was going to say the reason we are discussing this for a second week in a row is because we found out a little bit more from this New York Times article, and talk about what this lady does for a living, and go ahead.
She for $59.99 on her website, you can literally pay for a social media profile of your child, the type of people they're connected with, the type of things that are influencing them. It is, I mean, so that she is an expert. What she has brought to this case, she is an expert.
So we've paid and had that done for you, Heath. And here's what we
found. And guess what we discovered?
Oh my goodness gracious! But even people who were not directly involved in this case, but who were in the town, there are videos of students who got drunk and just talking about how they wish this rape victim were dead, and they're talking about, oh yeah, she's dead. We basically talk about killing her, and it is just deplorable, and just sickening to.
Well, and again, the big thing about this is that it's this crime blogger. She came up with all the evidence, and it goes back to what the prosecutor we talked about last week. He said we did not need witnesses,
right?
Because there was so much on social media, and so get it now. The crime blogger simply does all her research on the internet. She doesn't interview anybody.
Right.
She doesn't leave her home. She sits behind the computer and blows up the town, the state, and it becomes a national story.
A Steubenville student who was a student at Ohio State, after this all happened, there's a 2.5-minute video of him all drunk, joking about the rape, laughing at the victim, joking about the victim. That video has more than 1 million views. Ohio State received so many complaints, they did not allow him to return as a student in January. Wow. So, actions have consequences.
Yep. Social media. The very first story you read, it's really disturbing in terms of Christians in the Middle East. There was another story I debated. In Iraq, the Christian community is just shrinking there. And so now get this. We are for democracy in the United States, and we have this idea that we just need to import democracy around the world, and that this is going to work. And our good friend Steve Stanley has always cautioned us at this level to say it's not just democracy. No. It's the underlying philosophy behind democracy that will make democracy work. And what's happening as Iraq has become more democratic, Christians are being squeezed right out.
Yeah. There's a website that I like, has some great videos that talks specifically about why things like this happening. Politicalislam.com. The guy talks about the history of Islam, how how do you know what's going to happen in the future? You know what's going to happen in the past, and this type of activity in Iraq should not surprise us. I mean, this has been the history.
I guess it shouldn't surprise us, but it does mean.
Can I tie this back into my thing and my statement earlier? Democracy isn't salvific.
No.
And it's not. Yeah, it's not. Jesus is. And when we try to make democracy salvific, and when we try to make it the savior, nothing good comes from that. That's why on that issue of marriage, homosexuality, all of that, whatever happens democratically, I'll shed a tear. I'll be hurt if our cultural stance on this changes in a political way. But I'm not giving up hope, and I don't feel like I have to fight in that arena because democracy doesn't save people. This is an example of that. As you say, as the democracy's strengthening, then this is happening. Democracy doesn't save these people.
Yeah. All right, so let's talk about printing body parts.
So how many of your blueprints have you uploaded to the internet for people to have?
To me, this is a fascinating article about 3D printing. So some of us have seen MakerBot's printer. It's a 3D printer that you can order. I mean, bring it into your home, and it's still simplistic, but you can get the programs. They're like blueprints, and you can print plastic animal, plastic whatever. Now certain things, there are certain parts that now you can print plastic parts for. Well, this whole article is about how they see 3D printing and being able to take stem cells and literally planting those, using a printer, planting and forming like an ear or something like that. So if
so instead of an ink cartridge, you have like a stem cell.
I guess. Yeah.
There's that. You talk about what people were printing. There was an award show maybe a week or two ago where one of the women that went to she actually printed her dress on a 3D printer.
Oh, really?
And wore it. Wore it to the award
show.
So
what happens like if you're printing a liver and you run out of ink? That's what I'm wondering.
It's like beep beep, replace toner. No.
Yeah, the low ink warning comes on.
Yeah, that's no
so
good.
I took off my earphones as an example that I have some ears that stick out a little bit more than normal. Those will be posted $4 a piece. I consider the right ear slightly more valuable. There's also this spot where a long hair can grow out right there, and that's an added feature. That's another premium of $1 for that feature of that one hair that grows out real long.
If you're getting one hair now, in 20 years it'll be a beard coming out your ear. All right, let's talk a little bit about what's coming up. So next week we're going to have our interview with Dan Ryland, and this is one that we had to pre-record, and it's just a great interview.
Yeah, we've seen it and we highly recommend it. We give it 5 stars. It's a great interview.
Yes, one of our best.
Yeah, one of the best interviews I've ever seen.
Yeah.
I thought you were spectacular.
Thank you.
Really, it's about his book Amplified Leadership. This book here, and it's a great read. There's some anecdotal stuff, but also just years of just kind of collating leadership things, and then Dan's own experience. And he's at 12 Stone, which I didn't know till I knew they had tremendous growth there, but in 2010 they were the fastest growing church in America. And just a wonderful ministry. Also, coming up in April, we have Lowell Adams. This is someone...
Yeah, Lowell is a guy who does community health work in Haiti, and his job, his goal is to basically teach practical ways of living that can provide health. And one of the things that they do is they build latrines in places. Yeah. You can actually fund one of those. They partner. They say you have to have community involvement with this. We don't just come and do it. You take responsibility for it. And that's the goal, is to develop leaders inside of these smaller communities who then work that out into their community, not just going in, here's a seminar, now we're out, but establishing that so that it becomes bigger.
Yeah,
I don't
and
know.
it's
So-
grassroots.
Yeah,
it's growing
yeah.
from internal instead of
And
having all
Lowell-
this external.
Lowell is an awesome guy. I absolutely love and appreciate him. I've had him speak at my church before. Poor guy, he was on death's door ill, and yet he still was up there powering through.
We met him
his
at
stuff.
General Conference, didn't we?
Yeah, you met him
yeah.
at General Conference. But great guy, and I'm thrilled and delighted that we've got him on the show.
You made a great guess. And then April the 23rd.
23rd, yes.
It's our 200th episode. Steve Stanley's going to come in studio that day.
Yes. Yay!
And so the disruptive force of the universe will be right here.
And we're not doing anything that day except resting on our laurels. So it's going to be a beautiful.
And we'll have some stuff. We're just going to reminisce, kind of go off the cuff on some
the good
things,
old
and
days.
maybe bring back like Space Bat. Talk about
we've
things
talked.
that-
I
We
mean,
should
Space Bat was
we
so
should
early on.
watch an old episode of the show.
No,
and
we
do
mystery-
commentary.
and do like
Do-
mystery science.
Yeah.
Boy, you sure have gained weight, Heath.
Oh man, that would be hilarious. What was I going to say about that? Oh, we might have giveaways of stuff, fun things. Yeah. So we might give away. No, we won't. Give
I
that away.
actually have a piece of used technology I'm thinking about giving away on
Well,
that
see?
show, and so I'm just trying to. Also, I want to talk real quick. We are still in talks with Zondervan. These are trading cards that
Yes.
Zondervan is putting out, theological trading
Yes.
cards. I claimed the John Wesley card last week because I've done all the calling about this. And right now,
So.
as it's
We have the Bonhoeffer. We'll trade it for.
Yes.
The C.S. Lewis. If you can, yeah.
there you go.
We have Ephraim the Syrian. We'll trade you.
I'm hoping to have Zondervan next week, and we're just going to pull him in for 5 or 10 minutes. Right now, it's looking at, because of the responsibilities of the creator of these cards, that it's probably going to have to be a phone interview. But that's the goal right now, to have him on next week and just talk about these and what they're trying to accomplish with them and how you can get a hold of a set of these.
Yes.
All right. Heath, where can our listeners find you on the internet?
They can find me at heathmullican.com. I'm on Facebook and Twitter, where today I am wishing my wife a happy birthday.
right.
That's so
Sweet.
nice. That's
Yes.
sweet, Teach.
You can find me at MatthewTG.com, where I'm wishing my wife a great day in the lab. I don't know. And Heath, I'm sorry, Tony, where can people find you wishing your wife well?
ACasey64 at Twitter. All right. If you want to do further research on anything we discussed today, you can find all the links to the stories we covered at our website, thetechnologyshow.com. If you want to contact us, you can send an email to thetechnologyshow@gmail.com. Or better yet, why don't you call us, leave a voicemail. Just do this for Matthew. I mean, if you appreciate his producing of this show and all that he does behind the scenes, for crying out loud, call 3049.
And leave us a
Theology.
200th birthday wish.
Oh,
too.
that would be awesome.
The person who calls and
That would be
sings
awesome.
happy leaves us the best.
We don't have to
birthday
sing
message.
happy birthday. What do you-
Well, we'll give
That's
them away.
copy protected, by the way. We would get taken down on
That's
YouTube.
right.
So
Yeah,
Really?
Don't sing
you
happy
didn't know
birthday.
that the happy birthday tune is under copyright.
Yeah.
Like, you're not
I mean, for
legally
years
supposed
it
to
wasn't,
be able to
but
sing
someone claimed it because it was, and
Yeah.
so now
Well,
it's
that's
copyrighted.
ridiculous.
it. Yes, it is.
So don't sing it, man.
But
Don't-
anyways,
don't sing
all that
it.
aside.
Call, leave us a voicemail, and as Matthew said, great idea here. You can call and talk to us about our 200th episode and praise us if you want to. That's fine.
Like I said, we want to rest on our laurels, so just throw them our way, please.
All right. As always, thanks for joining us. Goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye.
Adios.